come again. So we want to have a little bit of interactive discussion also. We want you to have your opinion on some certain things. So we are using Mentimeter. And we want you to use a mobile phone and test if this is working. So if you could go to menti.com, you have also the QR code on this slide, and enter the code 87418612. And we will have also my presentation given within this Menti tool, so you can actually look at it there too. And we hope you can keep both the Zoom on your computer and the Menti on your mobile phone open, because we'll ask you a number of questions running this presentation. So we thought we should start with the first question by asking you, what country are you from? I have to write it in myself. Wow, some were very, very quick. Wow. I think the French were fastest, maybe even Spain. And here's coming in. You seem to be what I would call Menti specialist already. Nice to see that's a big sort of a spread of this. Good. We let you run this for a little while. Some of you are running this in the chat. Yes, that's good that Austria is here in the chat. I can see it also on the screen. Well, Germany is now in the center. It's a big audience from Germany, but also a big audience from Spain, Italy, France. Good. I think it looks like you actually, wow, seeing Greece coming up, that is really a pleasure. Europe is here too, that's good. Okay, I think we move on. So fascinating to see that more countries are coming up on the screen. And Basque country also. And planet Mars. That's good. Thank you, everyone. Let's go into then business and continue. This is the schedule today. We have a quite long schedule. I have to already now make a reschedule. Right after my short status report, we will have a presentation of the graphene flagship and graphene in batteries by Dr. Vittorio Pellegrini. And then after him, you will listen to the Faraday Institute. So at 2:20, we are in business following the schedule. And then we will have quick updates on the different projects before we have a wrap up. So I think batteries are hotter than ever at the EU level. The overall vision, the European Green Deal, the Green Recovery, it's called, is very much discussed, and batteries' role in that is discussed. So is also the role of hydrogen. The hydrogen community is even larger, but we are there too. The industrialization is pushed very strongly. The latest reactions from the European Commission is that skills, reskills, and upskilling really highlighted, and that there will be schemes influencing the member states from the European Commission in this respect. The battery partnership with, I would say now even 925 million euros, more than 900, they got an extra plus, is now soon to be signed by the Commission and has started to operate as an association with many members from Battery 2030 Plus, and also members from us in the governance board and in the what's called the association delegation. So when we started Battery 2030 Plus, this was really a picture we had in mind, but it's still valid, which is good. It means that we are in business. And what is really Battery 2030 Plus for you who are not so familiar with it? Well, it's a large-scale research initiative. And it is comprising a budget of, in this kickstart, of more than 40 million euros. And it's spread out on 6 acting projects that are implementing our roadmap, our birthday child. And it's coordinated by Coordination Support Action, which I'm directing. And I have Simon Perraud from CA as a co-director. And we are doing a lot of things together. The coordination, I will come back to that more, what we are doing in respect to these projects, and they will themselves present what they are doing and the relation to the roadmap. So what we have said that we are actually doing is that we are inventing the batteries of the future by reinventing the way we invent the batteries. That's a little addition we have made recently. Providing breakthrough technologies to European battery industry across the full value chain, enabling long-term European leadership. I think this is important in existing markets, and with a broad sort of perspective on what markets that could be. And we talk about ultra-high performances, smart functionalities, and environmentally sustainability, of course. So our road to make this roadmap, when did it start? Well, we were building a consortium at the end of 2017. We wrote a manifesto and a call text for the calls that actually are the project presented today. We got funding for preparatory coordination support action in 2019. We had building that on the manifesto. We worked out even more, polished the call text. The calls were published, and we also published this roadmap. And we had the first years starting at 1st of September 2020, and we are today also celebrate 6 months of our project. And of course, what I can tell you already now is the next phase is in preparation with the battery partnership. So you can find our coming R&I actions, the continuation, already planned 2.5 years from now. And we have some highlights here on what we have to do. We have to suggest research actions by defining challenges that we will solve together. We have the idea of being a pan-European initiative. We also to use large-scale infrastructures. You can see some of that in the projects. We are to accelerate the pace to reach the battery cell targets. And I think that's a very important part of our roadmap, accelerating the finding and discovery of new materials, etc. And of course, we want to be an attractive research community across Europe. You can say that there are larger initiatives than this one in Europe at national levels, etc. But it's quite large to be in Europe. Our roadmap is based on 3 steps: short term, which is what we are to achieve this phase, integration in the next phase of the crucial parts. And right now we are discussing if we can complement the R&I actions with new ones here, and we will ask you for your opinion later. And we have the long-term vision to really put together a materials acceleration platform and smart battery functionalities established. And of course, the purpose is to make the European battery fit for purpose, depending on its sort of where it's to be used. And we have these research areas, and it's a chemistry neutral approach, which means that we can test all these things irrespective of chemistry. But of course, each chemistry will have its individual features. And you can see that big map, the largest one is in 2 other research areas: the acceleration platform, the batteries interface, you know. The sensing you find with 3 projects that we present themselves, and we have 2 self-healing projects that will also present themselves later. We have also cross-cutting research area, which we hope will be more funded exclusively next time. That's what we're working for. But their perspective manufacturability and recyclability should be taken care of also by these projects. So the coordination support action, we develop the roadmap, we suggest new R&I actions, we coordinate and monitor the project to a holistic full initiative. We do not coordinate each specific project, we coordinate the projects to become a joint sort of feeling of an initiative. And we have to also ensure or find the good spots how the projects deliver according to the roadmap. We also develop a European curriculum, fair data standards and guidelines, communication dissemination. We also trying to form a joint IPR platform and strategies for that. So that's the role of the if you now have seen this, we will test your word cloud Menti skills again. You have the code on the top of the slide. And what do you think is really important looking at the future that a chemistry neutral roadmap should include? Have you any ideas? Then please grab your phone and write in 1 or 2 words and see what you come up with. Producibility, yeah, it's a good one. Modularity. Bulk materials, industrial needs, recyclability, material sufficiency. Concrete chemistry, sustainability. Okay, I love you. 1 more second to look at this. We are at the moment in the process of now starting our work to redefine the roadmap and go through it, and also see what we should add. Are there some area that is missing that we should actually come in with more? That's an important one for us. So if you have any ideas, please contact us. You can continue to fill this in, but I see that the time is running a bit because I love to speak, and I also would love to announce the next speaker. So thank you for your commitment and answering on this. This is some directions. We see sustainability, recyclability, and concrete chemistry. There are many different things to be taken care of. So thank you. But before I continue, I would like to say first that we are doing a bibliometric analysis for our next roadmap. We are using the ideas that you will produce. You will be able to give a feedback loop, but as a part of this, we are actually looking at the publications. What do the different areas stand for now? And we try to take the interface field in the big map and look at who are really publishing here. You can find an interesting pattern. And in fact, in almost every of our different ways of looking at the bibliometry, we can see that from 2012, China is in per volume increasing very rapidly in this field. Also North America is doing well. Europe is sort of at the same level. And if you take Asia, Japan, Korea, and Singapore together, we are slightly above, but not much. And if you try to look at impact by doing a field normalization to the world level, the world level should see us normalized to 1. You can see that Europe and China and US are all above this field level, but and it's still North America, but China is coming up now. But we can see that we are sort of shifting in this field, and I hope that we all working in Battery 2030 Plus can help this to reach to higher levels. And you can also see by these words here that you find in Europe the most important things around lithium-ion, polymer electrolyte, ionic conductivity, etc. And this comes specifically for the interface field. I was a bit surprised as the SCI and solid electrolyte interface comes not really higher up, but these are some of the buzzwords for this area. You will see more of this. A report will be filed that you all can read with a much broader content. So the next phase, we will have funding for new calls coming up 2022. You will see them coming out. An interface call, a big map phase 2 call, sensoring selfie and merge to a joint call. We hope that we can go in with new topics. And I also want to stress that mRNet is now open for applications, and there's an information meeting tomorrow. And we also are in a process to suggest more for 2023 and onwards. So our community will be part of this one too. So, and we are spread over Europe, which you could see on our Mentimeter map that we were many here. And I'm specifically grateful for you who come from our supporting organizations that are here today listening to us. There's a whole range of different organizations from Cyprus, from the synchrotrons and neutrons, it's from some important battery networks around Europe, etc. So thank you for joining this meeting and supporting us and hopefully advising us. And by this, I would like to ask our first speaker to really give his impression on the graphene flagship and what's going on there. I really would like to call in Dr. Vittorio Pellegrini from the bidimensional company trying to make graphene into a product for batteries. And I think bidimensional is actually also in one of our projects. So please, yes. Vittorio, take the stage.
Hi, Kristina.
You can ask me questions. I will answer your questions later, please.
So, hi, Kristina. Thank you very much for the invitation. I will try to share my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. So thank you again. It's really a pleasure. And I must say, listening to you, Kristina, in the first minutes of this meeting, that when we start interacting, probably a couple of years ago, we, the graphene flagship, were the example to follow, and you were asking questions. Now I think we are in the position, I mean, the graphene flagship, to learn from what you are doing, because you are doing so much good that it's really a learning experience to be here. And I think in the future it will also be very extractive for the graphene flagship to learn the evolution of the battery 2030 plus. And it's a pleasure to offer to you an overview of the graphene flagship, and in particular the effort of the flagship on batteries, which represent the overlap between these two big flagship projects, European projects. So just to make the story very short, you can see in this slide an overview of the flagship now, which is now composed by 165 partners, 51% university, so half and half between university and companies. Myself, I made a transition from university to company since I was in the Italian Institute of Technology at the beginning of the flagship, and now I moved to Bidimensional, which is a startup, a spin-off of the Italian Institute of Technology, but also a result of the graphene flagship activities. 22 countries. We are in the Core 3 project. We had the ramp-up phase in 2013 for 2.5 years, then a Core 1 and Core 2, and now we are in the Core 3 last segment of the project. And by the end of the graphene flagship in 2023, the overall European community funding will be around 400 millions. And the flagship will continue in Horizon Europe, although through a different mechanism, much similar to the Battery 2030 Plus structure. So in addition to the core projects, the flagship has also other correlated national and regional projects, which are that are embedded in the Flag Era framework. And then we do have, and I will tell you more in a minute, a pilot line for the integration of graphene into optoelectronic devices that has started very recently, and will last actually beyond for 1 year the graphene flagship activity. How the structure, what is the, this is a slide on the structure of the flagship. So we have a management structure composed by 2 bodies, the executive board, which address strategic issues and takes strategic decisions, and the management panel, which deals with daily issues and problems. And then the activities are divided in 4 divisions. Division 1 is on enabling science and materials. Division 2 deals the application of 2D materials in the health, medicine, and sensors devices and sectors. Division 3 is about electronics and optoelectronics and photonics. And finally, Division 4 includes composite production and energy. So in particular, energy storage, which is one of the work package of Division 4. So in addition to that, I say there are the Flag Era framework and the partnering projects who are supported by through Flag Era calls that happens every 2 years. Then we have a mechanism for associated memberships, particularly for companies that want to be associated to the flagship, so learn from the flagship or maybe contribute to the activities of the flagship. And then the experimental pilot line I was mentioning before, which has the target of demonstrating integrability of graphene into optoelectronic devices in a real pilot line. So it's a sort of pre-industrial activity. Finally, and that's also important, from Core 2, in addition to the work packages, to the division, so that I showed you before, we have defined this so-called Spearhead project. Those are specific projects that, as written here, must develop graphene-enabled prototypes and bring them as much as close to commercial application. And I will tell you more about the project related to batteries. Now, let me come back now to the main. After this general presentation, I would be more than happy to answer to specific questions. Let me come back to the title, to the topic. So, what we do within the graphene flagship that is connected to batteries? And I like to start showing this historical picture of the Volta pile, and you can see the face of Alessandro Volta in the year 10,000 lire, being replaced by the euros, as we all know, and the picture of the Volta pile, these fantastic devices as shown to Napoleon by Volta, I think in 1801. Now, the reason why we are much interested in understanding how 2D materials can contribute to the batteries, because we believe that there are many challenges ahead, which are mostly driven by an industrial need, which is to bring the electric-based technology into massive application like the automotive application or market. And we know that there are still big challenges to accomplish this. For example, and to give you just an example, there is still today a gap between the energy density of a conventional gasoline, which, if you take into account the efficiency of the combustion engine, is around 6,000 watt-hour per kilogram, and the energy density, so the efficiency of the current lithium-ion battery technology, which is perhaps around 250 watt-hour per kilogram. So there is still a gap. There is a strong interest, and there is a room for important improvements that can make a game changer in the automotive field, but in other fields as well, like, for example, stationary application. And we know there are many emerging technologies related to the use of different materials. For example, in the lithium-ion battery technology, cathodic material, anodic material like silicon. We know that there is this now very close to market application possibility of a solid-state lithium-ion battery. And we know that there are technologies that may go beyond the capacity of those lithium-ion batteries, and mainly lithium sulfur and metal here. And the interest of the flagship is actually to understand what the 2D materials can contribute in some of these technologies, and if the answer is positive, maybe bring one application to as close as possible to a commercial application. I think I don't have to spend too much word in saying that the field is expanding and significantly growing. These are just two graphs regarding the increase of the market for the automotive and also for the stationary application, which is huge. And also there is an issue about the materials that need to be produced to support those expanding market. This is just an example for graphite, which might be not so critical compared to other materials used in batteries like cobalt or nickel or lithium itself, but still it's an emerging issue. So the demand for graphite for lithium-ion battery application is significantly increasing. I think today's 8% of the graphite production worldwide is devoted to battery application, and this number is also increasing. So time is running fast, so let me focus more on the specific topic of what is the role of graphene and other 2D crystal in technologies for energy storage. I mentioned here a few papers of myself, my group, and others, a review paper on the topic. But before addressing some of the activity that we do and some of the results, I want to make a point. If really we want to understand what graphene and other 2D crystal, in particular graphene, can do in this field, and maybe since the mission of the graphene flagship is to create technologies and support the development of such technologies towards industrial application, a key issue, one of the pivotal issue, is the possibility to produce the material in large quantity, first of all, with a certified quality, second, and at an affordable price. If this is not possible, but it is possible, fortunately, I mean, all these questions would have little sense. And the answer and the issue of the material availability of the graphene production is actually absolutely non-trivial. To give you and to let you understand more about this, I want to recollect for a couple of minutes this history of aluminum, which is somehow similar, it could be similar to the one of graphene. Aluminum was introduced as a possibility to be produced by reduction, electrolytic reduction from alumina in 1808. Okay, so almost more than 200 years ago. But only after 20 years, the first isolation of aluminum took place by Ørsted in 1825, and the first production of aluminum of 30 grams was made. So 20 years to make just the first tiny production of that new material. Of course, we are in the third millennium. Things are much faster, but just to tell you that from the idea of having the material to the first production, 20 years. But this is not the end of the story. Then it took more than additional 20 years for the first industrial production of the material that is a tribute to Henri Saint-Clair Deville. And this is 1856. So 50 years to have a first industrial production. And at that time, there was no real application for this new material. And in fact, the only application available for aluminum at that time were ornaments and luxury items. So this is this statement from Henri Saint-Clair Deville, which is quite interesting because it also applies to graphene. So there is nothing other than to make people use a new metal or a new material. Luxury items, gadgets, and ornaments cannot be the only sphere of its application. I hope the time will come when aluminum will serve to satisfy the daily needs. And in fact, we had to wait 30 more years, so we are now 1886, to see the introduction of a new method of production, which has lowered significantly the price by two guys, one in Swiss and one in the US. And that was the breakthrough for industrial application of this material. And in fact, after a few years, now we are in 1889 and 1903, the first killer application of the material emerged. One from in the use in the car band sport car made by aluminum, and the second from in the case of airplanes, and the Wright airplane with aluminum engine was the first airplane using this metal. And we know that after that, the material has expanded significantly into commercial applications. So just to tell you that in the case of aluminum, it took almost 100 years from the first production or to a real application. In graphene was isolated for the first time in 2004. We are 16 years from that. Of course, we will not have to wait 100 years. Time is much faster today. But just to tell you that this is an absolutely non-trivial issue. Fortunately, in these 15 years, we discover different methods of producing graphene in large quantities. This is actually an old picture from a paper of Racicchini et al. Published in 2015. And among there are different methods of production of graphene. One of them, which looks very promising for application in batteries, is the so-called liquid phase exfoliation. And I will come back to this in a minute. But meantime, also from the point of view of certification, a lot of improvement have been made. And now we have an ISO standard that defines graphene as a material composed by no more than 10 atomic layers. And this definition is very important to classify the material that we have available today. And there is also a very recent certification on how to detect, or what are the methods to detect the number of layers of graphene. So as I said before, this liquid phase exfoliation looks very promising as the route to large production of material at an affordable price. It's a very, very simple method that is conceptually similar to the mechanical exfoliation by Scotch tape. But the Scotch is replaced basically, so the mechanical pressure using the Scotch is replaced by the lateral forces generated by a turbulent liquid generated on graphite. So the system is very simple. We have graphite immersed in a liquid, in a solvent. It could be water also. And then the liquid is pressurized and sent to an interaction chamber which is a very small chamber with a given dimension where in light of the pressure, there is turbulence in the liquid, and the turbulence give rise to shear forces, and the shear forces are able to exfoliate graphite into few layer graphene. And this method allows the production of large quantities in short time at an affordable price. But not only that, the method can be applied not only to the production of graphene, but also to the production of many other 2D materials, like, for example, two-dimensional boron nitride, but also all the family of the transition metal dechalcogenides that can be produced in the form of two-dimensional materials with exactly this method. Okay, so having said that, I still have 10 minutes, I think, or maybe less, just very briefly to show what are the more details about the work package on energy application and energy storage. Those are the partners involved in the graphene flagship on energy storage. And one of the activities related to the Spearhead, we had in the core 2 a Spearhead led by Varta, targeting the production of a battery using a silicon graphene composite as anodic material. And the Spearhead project was quite successful. You can see here what has been achieved using silicon graphene compared to silicon graphite. For example, we were able to achieve at the industrial prototype level a specific energy density of more than 27% with respect to the silicon graphite, which it's in turn better than the graphite anode, with finally and fortunately a very nice stability that is approaching the stability with the graphite anode. And there was a press release by Varta on this point last year. And now in core 3, we are pushing this technology in the automotive market in a Spearhead project that involves BMW. And you can see here a few targets of this project. We started that started 1st of April 2020 and will finish actually at the end of 23. We got an extension of 6 months. All the graphene flagship got an extension of 6 months due to the pandemic issue worldwide. Then the work package 12, which is focusing on lithium-rich layered oxide cathodes and on solid-state lithium-ion batteries using the silicon graphene anode. We have a task on lithium sulfur, and we have a task on metal hair with different targets, but I'm not going to, you can see there, I'm not going to focus too much on that since time is passing very, very rapidly. But just to give you a few hints about the results, a few years ago, we demonstrated with Bruno Scrosati a lithium-ion battery using a lithium-ion phosphate cathode and a graphene anodic material. We demonstrated the battery, but we also demonstrated that the improvement with respect to the technology using graphite is marginal. There are many issues related to the presence of irreversible processes. So we understood that graphene is not the right is not a good active material for anodes in lithium-ion batteries, but can be used as active materials, for example, in cathodes in metal oxygen or sodium oxygen or in aluminum-ion batteries. We have an activity which is led by IMEC on the application of a solid-state electrolyte in the lithium-ion batteries with a silicon graphene anodic material, where the silicon is the active material and the graphene is just an additive. It's not active, but it's an additive to stabilize the silicon, and this is work in progress. And then finally, we are putting a significant effort on sulfur and lithium sulfur batteries, where instead we can use a combination of lithium and of sulfur and graphene as a cathodic material. I'm not focusing too much on the problematics of these lithium sulfur batteries that you know very well, but just to tell you that We have different targets. One is led by Chalmers, which is focusing on 3 different aspects on the anodic part for the regarding the stabilization of the lithium metal in the anodic part of the battery, on the electrolyte regarding optimized formulation, and on the cathodic part using multi-scale modeling of structure and processes. And an additional activity is led by Josef Assoun at the University of Ferrara, and our group is on the development of graphene sulfur composite. You can see some picture of a graphene sulfur composite particles with different content of sulfur, and also on the development of coatings for aluminum collectors. Just a results obtained in Core 2 that we published quite recently regarding the use of this sulfur-graphene composite. And finally, I mean, there are many ideas that we can explore using 2D material. This is just an example, which I find very interesting and nice. It's basically a molybdenum trioxide nanosheet, which is combined with carbon nanotubes and used as an anodic material in lithium-ion batteries, where the carbon nanotubes that maybe you can see on the right part of the picture C, provide a conductive bridge between the different nanosheets. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer a question if any.
Thank you so much, Vittorio, for your excellent presentation and showing the strong sort of link to what we are doing also. I think that's interesting. We have actually some questions in the Q&A for you. And one is, what kind of solvent are you using for the exfoliation of graphene? Have you tried to use ionic liquids?
That's
yeah.
That's ionic liquids can be used. Maybe it's not the best option. The best option so far is to use organic solvents, but also water. For example, we can provide exfoliation of graphite and graphene in water using a stabilizing agent, which is a lithium polyacrylic acid. So basically, we can exfoliate graphite in graphene in water with a binder that can be directly used in the formulation of the electrode, for example. But there are many possibilities, and I think this is one of the relevant issues also from an industrial point of view, sustainability issues for the future, to find the most appropriate, sustainable, green, low-cost liquid for exfoliation of graphite and graphene. And the answer is not unique. It will depend on application. For example, exfoliation in water with LIPA may be the route to production of large quantities of materials for battery application.
Thank you. The person asking the question also says, our experience shows that we can obtain very stable dispersions with ionic liquids. So seem to be good examples. The other question is, ISO TS 80004/13:2017 defines the term graphene as single layer of carbon atoms with each atom bond to 3 neighbors in a honeycomb structure. For more than a single layer, the terms bi-tree and few layer graphene are used. Have you any comments on this definition and how we should look upon your results relating to this definition?
Okay, I don't know if I understood correctly the question, but graphene is indeed a pristine single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a honeycomb geometry with no defects. So with the thickness of 1 atom. But from the point of view of several properties, for example, electrical conductivity, the electrical conductivity of few layers graphene, if the number at room temperature, if the number of layers is less than 10, are exactly identical to the electrical conductivity of single layer graphene. So for these particular characteristics, so the electrical conductivity, having a material with 1, 2, up to 10 layers is absolutely identical. If you go above 10 layers, there are thermodynamic arguments that tells that the material behaves differently from the single layer graphene. And that is a regime that we call, ultra thin graphite. That depends on the temperature of the material and also depends on the properties. For thermal conductivity or for mechanical properties, this definition may change.
Thank you so much. And I have my own question. You have this slide where you're comparing the energy content of 1 liter of gasoline with a lithium battery. Yeah. And somehow I don't think the comparison is really fair. If you really should compare 1 liter of gasoline with a battery, you have also to take into account the poor efficiency of the combustion motor compared to the very high efficiency of an electric motor and the battery. And then the numbers become not as different as you make them here on this slide. What's your comment on that?
Okay, yeah, to some extent you are right, but I think that the energy density of pure gasoline is actually much higher than 6,000 watt-hour per kilogram. It's actually more than 10,000. And in finding this number, I think I don't remember exactly, but I consider an efficiency of the combustion engine, which is actually quite poor, of the order of 40% or 30%. So I think that at least from the point of view of the internal combustion engine, this poor efficiency is taken into account. So that's my first answer. The second answer is that, yeah, you may be right, but if you open a Tesla, and you don't do it, but if you open the battery pack, you will see that the weight of the battery pack of the Tesla is not 50 kilos. It's probably around 500 or even more kilos, and that's the final answer. So at the end, you have a normal a car which contains 50 kilos of gasoline, and you have a super electric car that has a similar driving range, but with around maybe 600, 700, 800 kilos of batteries. So there's still a gap, maybe not as large as this, but still a gap.
It is a gap, I know, but still, it's always difficult when you have played with these numbers. Yeah. The last question to you, how much is the reversible capacity of graphene silicon electrode?
The reversible capacity is in the first cycle, irreversible. Yeah. So we have in the first cycles we have something that is below 10% in the first cycle, and then it goes. I mean, yeah. The Coulomb efficiency.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So it sounds quite good, quite low.
Yeah. Of course, the numbers becomes very good when we go into the industrial prototype where everything is optimized, and right. So the final numbers actually is not, I don't know, but I think I cannot tell you much.
Okay, but you told us a lot, and it was very inspiring to listen to all this, what's going on in the graphene flagship. And I know you are heading off to Milano currently.
Yes, unfortunately or fortunately, because these days is impossible. We have a pandemic restriction in Italy, so it's very difficult to travel. But I have to sign an important contract, so I have to run to Milano, and in 3 hours I have to go there. Hopefully, no police will stop me during this travel.
Oh, dear, I really hope so. We wish you good luck and keep our fingers crossed for you. Thank you so much. And I have to ask you to unshare your screen. Thank you so much. And now I would like to welcome our next speaker, which is the CEO of Faraday Institute from Great Britain, from UK, Pam Thomas. And Pam Thomas is a professor. She's actually my scientific cousin. Her scientific grandmother, Kathleen Lonsdale, is also my personal scientific grandmother. And we share this interest for batteries. Pam has recently been a provost for Warwick University in UK, which also a university we know very much engaged in batteries. And the Faraday Institute is a big institute with many groups active to work together for enabling UK gigafactory and also innovations for UK. And you were a little bit dangerous for us before the Brexit, the very bad B word we were not allowed to say. But now we are happy you are here, and we look forward to listen to you. And again, send in your questions on the Q&A. Thank you and welcome, Pam.
Thank you, Kristina. I hope you can hear and see everything okay.
Yes, it's fine.
Good, thank you. So what I will do in the next 25 minutes or so is introduce you to the Faraday Institution. As Kristina has said, I am a scientist. I'm a materials physicist and crystallographer myself, and have worked for many years on ferroelectric materials. But I'm not a battery scientist, so I won't be able to answer your technical scientific questions about batteries, but I wanted to give you an idea about what the Faraday Institution is and the kind of research that it has been doing during its first 3 years. So your roadmap, Kristina, is on its first birthday. We're coming up to our 3rd birthday on the 1st of April. So it'll be interesting to see how our different younger ages compare. So anyway, as Kristina said, I'm the CEO of the Faraday Institution. And the Faraday Institution is the UK's national electrochemical storage research organisation, and obviously very, very focused on battery science and technology. So this schematic gives you an idea of the Faraday Institution's mission. At the very center in this large circle is what we spend most of our time and most of our £106 million of funding on, and that's application-inspired research. So that's really looking to bring the world-class scientists in the UK together across our universities to work on the mission of improving batteries for applications as part of a route, I suppose, would be fair to say, to attracting a gigafactory investment in the UK, but also obviously for the pursuit of important knowledge for the whole world. And so that's at the centre. As I said, we've spent £106 million on that up to March 2022, so there's still commitments in there. And sitting around that central research mission, then we have the various other things that we do. We work on policy. We have economists who are working on influencing policy and produce data-driven reports and briefings. We have a series of Faraday Insights. There are now 10 on different aspects of battery science and technology and its economic implications. We undertake work on training and skills. So clearly we have a PhD community. We have just over 130 affiliated PhDs to the Faraday Institution at the current time, and also look at how we can promote training for early career scientists, postdoctoral fellows, and so on. We do important work in convening and leading the national community in the UK. We now have 450 scientists under the Faraday Institution umbrella distributed across the UK, and we're working with 22 universities the length and breadth of the country, from Southampton on the south coast to St Andrews in Scotland and everywhere in between. So that's a very important role for us, and I think it's something that the battery community the UK, certainly didn't have before we were created. And another very important part of our mission is commercialization, particularly early stage commercialization of new research ideas. And we act as the focus for putting together academic industry consortia around our research discoveries. And in a sense, we act as a one-stop shop. So if an industry were interested in looking to the UK for some aspect of battery science, we would be a shop window, if you will, for that industry to look at what's going on in the UK and for us to put them in contact with the right scientific expertise to achieve what they wanted. And so you can see we've put over the top of that in this big green box that the Faraday Institution's mission is all of that, but ultimately it's around maximising the UK economic impact of battery research. So funding the fundamental research in the programmes, but doing the other things around research and commercialisation that will lead to it having an economic impact for the UK. So our research programmes, as I say, which take the lion's share of the money, started in 2018, April the 1st. And they were really conceived and shaped by industrial partners and particularly automotive industry to begin with. And there are a set of targets that we had back in 2018, which are set out on this slide and no doubt due for updating. But they're around reducing cost, improving energy density, improving power density, improving lifetime, and that's the heart symbol there, improving safety through considering thermal management, for example, temperature range for operation, the predictability in the sense that we could have full predictive models through multi-scale modelling of how batteries and their packs and modules would perform. And then, of course, very importantly, recyclability, what could be done at end of life, designing in that lifetime, green lifetime life cycle into the battery from the beginning. So these were set out as targets, and it is our ambition to look at how our projects are bringing us along the paths or the roads to these targets as we go along. And as I said, they're particularly under review at the moment for whether they are still fit for purpose. And one of the things that the UK asks this, what they consider to be a very large project to do, is look at how, as an integrated programme, as opposed to a set of different projects in different places, they're really hitting the highlights. And so just on this table here, we've looked at all our research across the breadth of the programmes and categorised it into its area where it's having highlights. Some, and you will see from the table that on the left side, we've got leading edge as cutting edge science. And we've taken as an example of a highlight from our programmes, Claire Gray's work on degradation of batteries, looking at the NMC 811 cathode and understanding the state of health and useful life of the battery. And here we categorized it under those icons that I showed you before to look at where each of our programs is having particular impact. And you'll see then we have next generation, which is looking at lithium-ion cathode materials and beyond, future technologies, and you can see where we're hitting these targets as we go, manufacturing, tools, techniques and capability, which hit nearly all of the targets across the 8 icons: sustainability and safety. So those are the 8 areas of impact that we've identified for the suite of projects under the whole portfolio programme. And this is very important in the UK scientific political climate at the moment, because £106 million have been fed to the Faraday Institution to go out into the battery research community. And for our national funders, they're very keen to see that there is additionality, that we're getting more than would have happened if they'd just given a set of small individual projects out to different universities. So this is something that we're constantly needing to demonstrate as an additional factor in bringing the community together and having them all work on common stated goals. So in the next few slides, what I've decided to do is set out for you a project on a slide. So each of these slides is a summary, a digest of a very large project. It could be £10 million worth of investment in, as I say, only just coming up to 3 years for projects that are called Fast Start, and just to look at what has been achieved at a high level of description on those projects over the 3 years. So this was one of our Fast Start projects from 2018, which was on battery degradation, forecasting health and remaining useful life. As I said, this one is led out of Cambridge University by Professor Claire Gray, who's probably known to some of you, and she's a specialist in NMR, and particularly in operando NMR, the difficult kind of experiments looking at battery materials in operating conditions. And the points here set out the highlights of what she's been able to achieve under that funding to date, leading a team around the UK. And then also down in the corner again, we looked at which of those icons that this research is hitting, that particularly if she can solve these projects of the issue of understanding degradation and then designing in a better way of creating and manufacturing the battery to avoid it, then she will hit these four of the icons. I'm not going to read through each of these slides. I'm assuming that these will be made available, Kristina, for people to read through in detail afterwards. I'm more interested in communicating the philosophy of what we're trying to do here. Very big set of projects, and present them as project on the slide, and where they're contributing to the portfolio nature of the ambitions that the whole program has. So here, identifying degradation patterns from impedance spectroscopy, and then using machine learning to interrogate what's a very large sets of data, for example, is something that she's doing under this project. So that was a Fast Start. That's a project that's been going for 3 years. And so that's her project on the slide. This one is one of the ones that was started in the second phase of project. So this has only been going about 18 months. And this project, Future Cat, is led by Serena Kaur in Sheffield. And again, it will involve a number of university groups all working together. And this is on next generation lithium cathode materials. And here we've looked at the fact that some of the work that they've already been doing has got commercial interest and is already starting to have patents to protect the intellectual property, and they're working with industrial partners to study the economics of the processes and materials that they've been working on. But also, of course, very high level research influence, and I would hope and imagine that many of you in the European collaboration are also aware of these papers. And again, the set of icons here about the particular targets that she's trying to reach. So very much a materials project, looking at using a variety of materials characterization techniques to understand the cathode chemistries, looking at crystal structure predictions and using chemical know-how to understand what is happening in these materials. Then again, going back to one of the projects that has now been going 3 years. This is the project Solbat Future Technology, which is led by Peter Bruce, Professor Peter Bruce in Oxford, and again has a wide number of partners across the UK. So this is very much looking at solid state batteries, doing very renowned fundamental work on lithium dendrite formation and lithium anode solid electrolyte cells, looking at interfaces between lithium containing materials and a liquid electrode. That's actually the cover image from Joule, is the one I'm using here and on the cover image of the slides. Then also looking at lithium protrusions in solid state lithium batteries using X-ray computed tomography, and giving very interesting information also about voids in these materials as a result of the way that they're manufactured and used. So again, this is very much led by fundamental science in addressing challenges in lithium-ion batteries and looking forward to solid state batteries. But also this is presenting us with some commercialization opportunities too that I'm not able to share with you in this open format, but that's something that the Faraday Institution, because of its particular makeup, has been tasked with doing, is bringing the science in these projects together with consortia for potential commercialization. Another one of our phase 2 projects, we have 2 cathode projects, and this one is led by Saiful Islam from Bath, which is a next generation lithium cathode material. And this is internationally leading work on high energy density oxygen redox cathodes, or redox cathodes. Again, these are not here for me to go into the detail of them now. They're not my work, they're the work of the PIs and their project teams. But just to give you a feeling of the breadth of the type of science that we're covering under the Faraday Institution's purview. And you'll see at the bottom of this one that obviously, as you would expect in materials research heavy projects, part of the investment is spent on development of state-of-the-art techniques for investigation, including a special electrochemical cell for in situ magnetic measurements during cycling. And then beyond this generation of battery materials, we have our lithium sulfur project, which is led out of University College London by Paul Shearing. Again, this is one where there's already very early, highly promising results looking at new types of cathode structure. And these again have been identified as having commercial potential. So I'm not able to discuss them in an open forum. But again, the importance of protecting IP and looking at the commercial routes as we go along. And LISTAR, the lithium sulfur project, is very connected to our multi-scale modeling project, which I don't have a slide about here. So looking at a collaborative effort to combine atomistic modeling and material synthesis. And we've invested in the Faraday Institution in our own high performance computing facility to allow our battery scientists to get access to the necessary multi-scale modeling that they need as a part of these big projects. And that's something that we wouldn't have been able to do unless we'd all come together as a national project. And then finally, almost finally of these slides, a phase 2 project, which is about sodium-ion batteries, where we've got invested in new battery manufacturing capabilities in St Andrews University. So looking across the breadth of necessary routes to battery chemistries for the future. And something that I'm very pleased as part of the Faraday Institution's portfolio from the beginning is the RELIB project, which is on the forefront of sustainable reuse and recycling of battery materials. And this is led by Paul Anderson in Birmingham University. And you can see they've already patented an ultra-fast electrode delamination process out of this work. And also they filed the patent for selective leaching and flexible low temperature NMC regeneration processes. And this is something that as CEO of the Faraday Institution, I've slightly had to fight to maintain as at a very high level in our portfolio, because this is the tension one always has between the types of activity that can be commercialized very quickly and presented to industry for very fast take-up and economic impact generation. And it's the tension between that and the types of science that are really, really important, and clearly they are for our net zero targets and our human environmental interaction with our planet. But they don't immediately present the opportunity for commercialization. So I feel that one of the important parts of being a national battery project is to talk to power, as it were, about saying which things we really need to see in our portfolio. And recycling to me is very clearly something that needs to be in our portfolio. And alongside, I would say, safety, which is an area that we have just launched a new project on for our 3rd birthday on the 1st of April. Going the wrong direction. And then to go with these, we've got 3 cross-cutting projects to look at battery materials. So one on probing buried interfaces in working batteries, quantitative imaging of electrochemical interfaces, and high-resolution optical microscopies to evaluate structural transformations and dynamics. So these are across all of the projects. They don't belong to one particular theme, and they're smaller projects, but making these types of very high-level characterization and innovative characterization available to all our battery scientists across the whole of the UK. And just to say, we are shaped by industry. We have a board of trustees that advises and looks over what we're doing. And some of these slides are actually created for that board to tell them what we're doing and how we're benefiting the UK through our activities. So we do a lot of work with industry, and we have something called sprint projects, which are short projects to bring scientists and industries together. We have industrial fellows, we have large industrial engagement, entrepreneurial fellows, which are very much for early career researchers. And we do a lot about IP identification and working with the technology transfer offices of the university. And I see Kristina has appeared, which means that I'm close to the end, which I am. So the details of the different types of interaction are on the slide, so I won't go through them here. And as I said, I hope that we'll be able to share those with the delegates so they can see what we're doing. Equally well, we're working on skills, as I said, so we're doing a whole partnership between ourselves, WMG, Warwick Manufacturing Group, and the OEMs and the Automotive Council about high and low level skills, right across from being a technical operator on the factory floor to being a senior engineer. And finally, we have some international programs as well, which are listed on the slide, so I won't go through them, but it's looking to take the Faraday institution work beyond the borders of the UK, which I think is extremely important. And I'm going to finish there with just saying it's a great pleasure to talk to European colleagues about science in the UK, and just to say that we miss you all, but we're hoping to be back by association with Horizon. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Kristina.
Thank you so much, Pamela, and showing it is really what I would call a flagship for batteries in UK. And also, as you say, you are actually back in Horizon Europe scheme, where we can actually have you as partners. And we have been cheating a little bit because we have UK partners in the Big Map project that will soon be presented. So we have not turned the back to you. But if you have questions for Pam, please write in the Q&A. My question is, here's one coming up, is that this is a very, very long, I mean, you're building up a lot of resources. How do you ensure the interest from the politicians and the funding agency to be persistent and keep these investments alive and really harvest what they put into this, because that is something I find not so trivial.
No, I think it's something that we're doing right now, Kristina, at the moment, which is really lobbying parliamentarians, lobbying funders. The UK funding landscape is in serious difficulties at the moment, and we've had 3 years of funding, and we're looking at our fourth and final coming up, unless we can persuade them to look at what we've actually built in the UK and then say, well, let's keep this platform and go on to the next stage. And clearly, I mean, with long-term goals, 2050, for example, it seems entirely unthinkable that they would stop such a flagship project on batteries in the UK at the moment. But things can happen by accident if one isn't careful. So we're working very, very hard on that. And just for the UK economy, clearly for our scientists as well. So they've got their funding secured for the future.
Yeah, maybe we can help each other, because we have the same fight with the European Commission, of course, and the member states.
Yeah.
You see that this was also the question from Edel Sheridan from Batteries Europe. So
Yes.
You have one question here about training. Which programs on education for new scientists, new battery workers, new curricula, long life formation did you put in place? What do you do in the educational part? Could you say something?
We're still working on rolling out that program with the Automotive Council and WMG, Warwick Manufacturing Group. We're looking at a skills portfolio for the whole of the UK. We already have certain battery schools and so on that we start our PhD students in, but already that's quite high level at that point. They've decided to convert themselves from physicists or, in fact, biologists and lawyers as well into battery scientists. So that's at the high end. And we're working with the Automotive Council to look at where we start with getting our young apprentice level floor scientists and engineers to understand electrification we have also programs with the emergency services. So we have a training program with our fire service to look at the fact that they'll be putting out battery fires, not combustion engine fires and so on. So I can't detail the names of them at the moment, but if we can keep the question, I'll get our training manager, Matt, to answer that more usefully.
Thank you. This is something not really discussed in Europe. I heard a number yesterday saying that we need 800,000 new educated, skilled people in all sectors. I don't know if it's true, and what the number comes from, but it's substantial. Okay. Are the OEMs enrolled in any external advisory board? Is a question you get also.
Yes, so we have the projects, all of the projects are overseen by an expert panel, which includes members from OEMs, from academia, external international experts as well, I believe, Kristina, from various different backgrounds. So yes, they are involved in that, and we also have members on our board of trustees overseeing the whole activity of the Faraday institution. So they are very close to what is happening and advising. And I think that is really, really important. And I think it's also important that we have some other voices that are not OEMs as well. And because we need to be an independent voice, or an independent voice to government, to industry, to academia. We do this for ourselves, and I think that can be quite important in this space where there are so many competing interests.
Thank you so much, Pam. I think we need to move on, but I will answer a general question. We will share the slides, and you heard that Pam is also happy to share the slides. Thank you so very much, and good luck with Faraday, and we keep in touch. We feel like sister projects, or maybe cousin projects. Thank you. And I leave now the floor to